The wind, a frigid razor, howled its mournful song across the frozen expanse of the Eurasian steppe as a curtain of heavy snow began its relentless descent. The mercury had plummeted to a bone-chilling -40 degrees Fahrenheit, transforming the landscape into an icy prison that would hold the land captive for half a year. A modern human, stripped of the comforts of civilization, proper shelter, central heating, and layers of insulated clothing, would likely succumb to the elements within a matter of hours. Yet, a staggering 30,000 years ago, entire families not only endured such brutal winters, but thrived, raising children and even producing some of the most breathtaking and sophisticated art known to humankind. They possessed no permanent structures, no furnaces blasting comforting heat, no walls packed with modern insulation. So, the question begs to be asked, how did our Paleolithic ancestors manage to conquer the harshest winters in human history? The popular image often conjures visions of early humans huddled miserably around flickering fires in the mouths of drafty caves. But this simplistic portrait is woefully incomplete, a pale shadow of the truth. A wealth of archaeological evidence reveals that our ingenious ancestors developed an array of winter survival technologies, so remarkably effective that they paved the way for human expansion into some of the most unforgiving environments on the planet. From the towering mammoth bone houses of Ukraine to the ingeniously crafted snow caves of Siberia, Paleolithic peoples created winter shelters that would leave even the most seasoned modern Arctic engineers in awe. The story of their survival begins with a seemingly simple, yet revolutionary realization. When nature throws its worst at you, you must learn to make nature work for you. This guiding principle permeated every aspect of Paleolithic winter shelter design, from the careful selection of materials to the mastery of construction techniques and the ingenious implementation of heating systems. Rather than futilely battling against the relentless snow, the biting wind, and the soul-crushing cold, our ancestors learned to harness these very forces for their protection. Compelling archaeological evidence for these sophisticated winter shelters has been unearthed at numerous sites across the northern regions, where early humans fearlessly pushed the boundaries of habitability. At Kostroma in Russia, dating back an astonishing 80,000 years, researchers painstakingly uncovered the remnants of what may be humanity's first engineered cold weather housing. These intrepid Arctic pioneers had excavated circular depressions, some reaching depths of up to 8 feet and spanning 12 feet across, creating the sturdy foundations for semi-subterranean winter homes. The engineering principles underpinning these underground shelters were remarkably sophisticated for their time. By digging below the frost line, early humans tapped into the Earth's inherent insulation properties. At depths of 6 to 8 feet, the soil temperature remains relatively stable throughout the year, typically a full 20 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the frigid surface air during the long winter months. And this wasn't mere happenstance. Careful analysis of tool marks and meticulous soil analysis reveals that these precise depths were deliberately chosen to maximize thermal efficiency. But the true breakthrough came with the development of composite insulation systems. At Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, a site dating back 26,000 years, archaeologists made an extraordinary discovery, evidence of winter shelters that employed layered insulation techniques not seen again until the dawn of modern times. The walls of these structures incorporated multiple material layers, each meticulously designed to serve a specific thermal function. The innermost layer consisted of carefully prepared animal hides, meticulously arranged with the fur side facing inward to trap the precious warm air against the occupants' bodies. Outside this, a layer of dried grass and moss provided an additional layer of insulation, while also working to wick away moisture from the interior, preventing dampness and discomfort. The outermost layer consisted of woven mats crafted from reeds and bark, creating a wind-resistant barrier that simultaneously allowed moisture to escape, preventing condensation from forming, which could freeze and compromise the integrity of the shelter. Perhaps the most iconic examples of Paleolithic winter architecture are the mammoth bone houses of Ukraine and Russia. At sites like Mazyrik and Kostenki, dating between 25,000 and 15,000 years ago, Researchers unearthed the remains of structures that represent some of the most sophisticated prehistoric architecture ever to grace the archaeological record. These were not crude huts thrown together haphazardly, but meticulously engineered buildings designed specifically for survival in the face of extreme cold. The construction of mammoth bone houses began with carefully planned foundations. Builders excavated circular or oval depressions, typically 12 to 16 feet in diameter, a size carefully calculated to accommodate extended families of 8 to 12 individuals. The excavated earth was strategically piled around the perimeter to create berms, providing additional wind protection and acting as a form of thermal mass, absorbing and retaining heat. The framework of these extraordinary structures utilized the massive bones of woolly mammoths, creatures that had themselves evolved sophisticated adaptations to the cold. Mammoth skulls, some weighing in excess of 200 pounds, were ingeniously employed as foundation blocks. Curved tusks and long bones formed the dome-shaped framework, while hundreds of smaller bones were used to fill gaps and provide additional structural support. Radiocarbon dating has revealed that many of these bones came from long-dead mammoths, indicating that builders were systematically collecting materials from established bone yards, rather than hunting these magnificent beasts solely for their skeletal remains. The covering system for mammoth bone houses reveals an extraordinary level of innovation in textile technology. Analysis of preserved organic materials shows that builders created composite wall systems using a variety of animal hides. Thick mammoth hides formed the robust structural outer layer, meticulously sewn together with sinew thread, using expertly crafted bone needles. Inside this, layers of smaller animal pelts, harvested from wolves, foxes, and Arctic hares, provided crucial additional insulation. The entire covering system was securely anchored to the bone framework using a complex system of hide ropes and bone toggles. Heating these large winter shelters required sophisticated fire management techniques. At most mammoth bone house sites, archaeologists have discovered evidence of multiple hearth systems, meticulously designed to maximize heat distribution while minimizing fuel consumption. Central hearths provided the primary source of heat, while smaller heating stations strategically placed around the perimeter created warm zones for specific activities, such as food preparation and tool making. The fuel management systems were equally impressive. In the treeless steppe environments, Paleolithic peoples could not rely on wood for heating. Instead, they developed ingenious techniques for utilizing mammoth dung, dried grasses, and even bone as fuel. Chemical analysis of hearth residues reveals that these alternative fuels were carefully processed and prepared to maximize their burn efficiency and heat output. But perhaps the most ingenious aspect of Paleolithic winter shelters was their ventilation systems. Modern Arctic engineers understand that proper ventilation is absolutely crucial for cold weather structures. Without it, moisture from breathing and cooking creates condensation that can quickly freeze, rendering shelters uninhabitable. Archaeological evidence reveals that Paleolithic builders solved this problem with remarkable ingenuity. At sites like Kostenki, researchers have found evidence of carefully designed airflow systems. Small openings near ground level allowed fresh air to enter the shelter, while larger openings near the top allowed warm, moisture-laden air to escape. The precise positioning of these openings created natural convection currents that maintained air quality while simultaneously preserving precious heat. Some sites even show evidence of adjustable ventilation systems, with bone and hide flaps that could be opened or closed depending on prevailing weather conditions. The social organization within these winter shelters reveals fascinating insights into Paleolithic family life. Archaeological evidence strongly suggests that these structures were designed to accommodate extended family groups, with specialized areas designated for different activities and age groups. Sleeping areas were typically arranged around the central hearth, with the warmest spots reserved for infants and elderly family members, reflecting a deep-seated cultural emphasis on the protection of the most vulnerable. Tool-making areas were strategically positioned near secondary hearths, where good light and heat were available for detailed work. Food storage within winter shelters was another crucial innovation. In permafrost regions, Paleolithic peoples learned to exploit natural freezing as a preservation method. At many sites, Archaeologists have unearthed evidence of underground storage chambers connected to winter shelters by short tunnels. These natural refrigerators kept meat fresh throughout the long winter months, while remaining easily accessible even during severe storms. The construction timeline for these winter shelters reveals remarkable planning abilities. Experimental archaeology has shown that building a mammoth bone house required 2 to 3 weeks of intensive work by a dedicated group of 8 to 10 adults. This means that construction had to begin well before the onset of winter weather, before the ground froze solid and outdoor work became all but impossible. Analysis of tool wear patterns and seasonal indicators suggests that most winter shelters were built during the late summer and early autumn, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of seasonal cycles and a capacity for long-term planning. Maintenance of winter shelters was an ongoing concern throughout the cold season. Archaeological evidence reveals that occupants regularly repaired and upgraded their structures as winter progressed. Broken bones were replaced, damaged hide coverings were patched, and insulation materials were refreshed. This wasn't simply reactive maintenance, but proactive engineering, a continuous process of improvement that enhanced the shelter's performance over time. The psychological aspects of winter shelter design were also carefully considered. Living in enclosed spaces for months at a time can lead to serious mental health issues, a phenomenon well documented by modern Arctic researchers. Paleolithic builders addressed this challenge by incorporating features that provided psychological comfort and fostered social interaction. Many winter shelters included specialized areas for artistic activities. The famous Venus figurines, discovered at many Paleolithic sites, were often found in winter shelter contexts, suggesting that the long winter months were seen as a time for creative expression. Cave art, while often associated with caves, was also created within winter shelters, using portable art objects and decorated tools. The end of winter required its own specialized techniques. Archaeological evidence suggests that many winter shelters were deliberately dismantled at the end of the cold season, with valuable materials carefully cached for reuse the following year. Bone frameworks were often left in place, covered with earth and stones to prevent scavenging, while portable materials, such as hides and tools, were packed for seasonal migration. The thermal efficiency of Paleolithic winter shelters was remarkable by any standard. Experimental reconstructions have demonstrated that properly built mammoth bone houses could maintain interior temperatures 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the outside air, using only modest fires. It is a sobering fact that modern Arctic shelters, with all of their access to industrial insulation and advanced heating equipment, often perform no better than these Stone Age structures. The techniques developed for winter survival had a profound impact on human evolution and expansion. The ability to survive harsh winters allowed early humans to colonize vast regions of northern Eurasia that would otherwise have been uninhabitable. This expansion brought access to new resources and hunting grounds, supporting larger populations and accelerating cultural development. Many of the innovations developed for winter shelter construction found applications in other areas of Paleolithic technology. Composite material techniques used in winter shelters were adapted for clothing, tool handles, and hunting equipment. Insulation principles were applied to food storage and protective clothing. The engineering mindset required for winter shelter construction likely contributed to the technological explosion of the Upper Paleolithic period. The knowledge required to build effective winter shelters was extensive and had to be transmitted across generations with perfect accuracy. Mistakes could be fatal. This need for precise knowledge transmission may have contributed to the development of complex teaching methods and cultural practices that ensured that survival information was preserved and passed down. Regional variations in winter shelter design reflect local adaptations to specific environmental challenges. Arctic coastal peoples developed techniques for building on permafrost, while continental steppe dwellers perfected methods for dealing with extreme wind exposure. Mountain peoples created avalanche-resistant designs, while forest edge inhabitants learned to integrate natural windbreaks into their shelter systems. The abandonment of these sophisticated winter shelter technologies following the end of the ice ages represents one of the great technological losses in human history. As climates warmed and forests expanded, the need for extreme cold weather shelters diminished. The knowledge was gradually lost, surviving only in a few Arctic regions where environmental conditions remained challenging. Modern Arctic engineers studying Paleolithic winter shelters have gained valuable new insights into cold weather construction techniques. Military Arctic training programs now teach shelter-building methods directly derived from archaeological reconstructions of Paleolithic designs. Disaster relief organizations have adapted these ancient techniques for emergency shelter construction in extreme environments. The story of Paleolithic winter survival is ultimately a testament to human adaptability and engineering innovation. Faced with environmental conditions that should have been impossible to survive, our ancestors didn't retreat to warmer climates. Instead, they developed technologies that allowed them to thrive in the harshest environments on Earth. When we consider the sophisticated thermal engineering, the complex material processing, the precise construction techniques, and the detailed environmental knowledge required to build these winter shelters, we see not primitive cave dwellers, but accomplished Arctic engineers. Their innovations laid the groundwork for all subsequent cold weather technologies and demonstrated the fundamental human capacity to overcome environmental challenges through ingenuity and cooperation. The next time you adjust your thermostat or check your home's insulation, remember that the principles you're relying on were first developed by families living through Ice Age winters with nothing but stone tools and natural materials. Their legacy lives on every time we create warmth and safety in the face of winter's challenge.